Colossus 10 is actually one of my favorite colossi in the game. There's a lot of things going on for it. We again have to use aggro in a way that's very significant, which further increases our feelings of connection with him as a character. Well, excuse me, her. Aggro is actually female, to my knowledge. But the fight itself isn't just the thing that I like. There's some imagery associated with the creature that I find very compelling. The most important thing to note is that in terms of colossi, this Colossus will have the largest eyes. Eyes have a lot of meaning behind them. We call them the window to the soul. And when I think of stories that involve eyes, one of them is from Egyptian myths. The Eye of Horus was destroyed in a battle, and another god saved it. After it was, torn into fragmented pieces, they saved it using the power of a falcon. It's not quite a hawk like we've always looked at in this game, but we do have a connection through the eyes to souls, something being fragmented, and then also something being restored through magic. This boss arena doesn't have a lot to consider, but we do really need to look at this boss's design. Not just the eyes, but how it moves about. It swims in the sand like it would be in water, sort of like Hydrus, right? There's definitely something magical and strange about the creature. In this fight, I'm going to focus a little bit, not because I think it's a hard fight, but because, these bosses can be punishing. I use the word frustrating a lot, and I just mean sometimes you feel like you're not completely in control, and not in a way that necessarily enhances the experience. Here, I need to run about the space until the Colossus chases me. Once we're on the Colossus, I can think about a couple things that we might want to consider. Importantly, we've not really looked at a lot of the imagery in this game, by which I mean things like symbols on clothing or the sigils on the Colossi. Here we'll have a nice way to look at them. I need to turn, and I need to shoot Dirge in the eye. That's its name, by the way, Dirge. I might have missed that point. I like that name because it calls to mind exactly what a dirge is, a sort of remembrance of the dead. I think they might have gotten away. The name Dirge sort of reminds me of a lot of the things of this half of the game. We're encountering a lot more things that seem like natural creatures. We're destroying them, and really, they end up being pretty scary. I mean, just look at the mouth on Dirge. As we move through this second half of the game, we're really going to start feeling a certain degree of empathy for the Colossi, even the ones that are sort of foreign looking to us. The name Dirge really starts to make it feel like you're killing a lot of creatures. And with the next Colossus, we're going to see that some of the things that we thought about the Colossi might not be true. Now let's make sure we can shoot it finally. We might have gotten it. There we go. And we missed getting squished in the wall by just a tiny fragment. So let's jump on its back. And we'll try and find its first sigil. Let's take a good look at it for a moment. It's hard to figure out what it represents, and I wish I had more, knowledge of arcane imagery. It's fairly clear, or at least I think it's fairly clear, that the sigils sort of represent whatever magic has been used on the Colossi to seal in Dorman's soul. However, they have such an intricate design, and I wish the game really let us look at them in situations that weren't tied to combat. Maybe there's some places where we can see them a bit clearer, but most of the time we are so focused on, defeating a monster that we can't really look at all the images in the space. And here we go. We managed to make them hit one of the columns. It was a close call, but we should be able to finish off the boss. In this part of the game, I'm going to be narrating a lot of my actions, so I missed that jump right there. And the only reason I'm narrating my actions so much, and it sort of feels a little bit more like a normal Let's Play, is because, like I've said, these boss fights aren't necessarily difficult, but they are a little bit more involved than the fights that we've had before. But with one last stab, we should have Dirge defeated. And there we go. Dirge, along with Avion and a couple of other fights, Gaius, and one really prominent Colossi coming up later on, are some of my favorite fights in the game. Once again, our bond with Aggro is really stressed here. We see the Colossi as very strange creatures, and we had a chance to look at the magic and the imagery on the sigils, which we usually don't get to do. The encroachment of all these spirits into our personal space really starts to feel uncomfortable the more that they gather. Now we're up to 10, and it really starts to feel overwhelming. If they have any hostility towards us because of our actions, well, it feels very, very scary. Or at least I think so. The imagery of shadows of creatures that you've killed hanging over you as you sleep. To some extent, we might want to think that it's an image related to some guilt that Wander might be feeling for his actions, attacking the Colossi. But I don't know if that really holds up. Wander's so very focused on his quest that I don't really think that he considers the consequences of his actions. Of course, it's hard to really read into the actions of what's basically a blank avatar for the player to act in. Wander only exhibits so much action of his own. So there we have it. Colossus number 10. 6 more to go, and I really hope you guys stick with me. I'll see you in the next section.